Today, I'm going to put on a rough country 2-inch spacer onto the WJ to make room for slightly larger tires. Those are about 31, 32 inch. So yeah, this is not the final size that I'd like to go. I'd like to go larger at some point, but this will get it so I can at least do a little wheeling with it while I plan out the next steps. So this is just a simple spacer. It goes on top of the springs in the front and rear. Rough Country makes this one. I went with the Rough Country because theirs are made out of metal, whereas a lot of the others are poly or Delrin, which is fine, but I don't know, I just thought the metal seems stronger. It might. So I did end up having to use a spring compressor to get this back in. One thing, put that on first because otherwise it makes it a lot harder to get the whole thing on. Yeah, the other thing you can do if you don't have a spring compressor, the reason the axle won't go down any further is it's hitting the lower control arm right there onto this bracket. So you could unbolt the lower control arm and that would let it droop down further. But I didn't feel like doing that, and I had a spring compressor that fits these springs, so that's what I ended up doing. Now I just got to figure out how the heck I'm going to undo this and get it out of there. Alright, so that's one side in. There's a little rubber pin on the bottom here that lines up with a hole. Make sure that's lined up. And the edge of the spring on this side should line up with this little thing on this notch or post or whatever. You can kind of rotate the spring if you need to once it's in there because there's still not a lot of pressure on it. Anyway, there's one side in. Just got to hook the shock up at the top again and then onto the other side. The other side, video cut out when I was doing this. So there's a self-tapping screw they provide, which holds this in there. Put it up in there, and it taps right into there. This isn't super thick, so I'm going to start it with the impact, but then I'm going to put it in by hand because I don't want to strip it out. Something I didn't do on the other side is line these up right when I put them on. And I actually ended up with one of my compressors on the back side of the spring, which made it harder to get off. So on this side, I'm going to line it up in here and see where the best place to put these on would be. if you don't have a spring compressor, it's a loaner tool you can get from AutoZone or any other, O'Reilly, whatever parts store you got nearby. If they do loaner tools, all right, springs in. So yeah, I put these on the side because I thought they'd be easier to get to, and they were. But this on this side was contacting the bottom over here, and so to put it in, I actually had to rotate it so it was off the back. I didn't want to crush that brake line, and then off the front so it would clear this bracket. Once I got it in, I've been releasing them slightly so that I could get it up so that I would move it, and now I've got it in the position where it's supposed to be. I disconnected the sway bar on this side too to give me more clearance there. I originally bought this spring compressor to do the front struts on my WK, and just something to watch out for when you're buying these. Make sure that this right here will fit underneath it, because on the WK the springs are bigger and I couldn't get this pin on, so that was a little sketchy. And I probably, if I had to do it on that one again, I would not do that. I'd buy a different spring compressor, because you always want that safety catch. That was probably not a good idea. But on this one, they fit on there nice. So. All right, now I'll reconnect all this stuff and onto the back. All right, check this out. Front is done. Still got to do the rear. Right now, it's like one of those trucks that's like riding high up front and drooped in the rear, which is kind of weird. Hard to tell because I can't really get back far enough. I don't know if that shows anything better or not, but there's definitely, the front is definitely higher than the rear. So, got the rears to put on still. I'm gonna eat some lunch and then get started on that. You can see. They're still on the other side. Guess I should take that off. Might give me a little more droopy. Isolator on the bottom. I don't think there's anything that holds it in, except for years and years of dirt. So the instructions say not to put this isolator on, but that seems weird. I don't know. Maybe there's a reason. I'm going to find out why though. So I'm going to try and put it in there with it on there and see what happens. As soon as I can figure out how it works. Alright, spring compressor time again. Maybe if I hadn't put that little rubber thing on there, I could compress it to get in there, but the way it is right now, it doesn't want to cooperate, so my spring compressor on and crunch it down and see if I can make it fit. Alright, got one rear in. I'm still leaving all this disconnected because that might make it easier for me to do the other side. It says in the instructions you may need to jack this side up to get the other one in, and so I just figure by having this disconnected that'll probably give me a little more room to move. But I mean, you can see it's not even in, you know, sitting up in there, so there's plenty of room right now for it to go up and down. I think I got this lined up. There's a little notch in there again. So, all right, do the other side. So for the lower isolator, the instructions say don't use it. It's not needed, but I don't know. We'll see if this backfires on me later. I'm gonna try and reuse it because it seems to me like having that rubber there would prevent rattles and squeaks and stuff. But you got to trim off this post because there's no hole for it in the spacer. So I trimmed that down, which is some tin snips, and then I'm just going to grind the rest of it flat. There we go. Now that'll fit without problem. And there's what it looks like in there. I noticed there's a little notch right on this thing. I don't know if it lines up with anything, but this notch down here lines up with the hole where that thing used to go. So when I put this on, I just made sure I lined up where that peg was supposed to be with that notch, and so now I can line that notch up with that notch. On the other side, I didn't notice that, so I just kind of tried to get it about right, and I think I got it. But on this one I noticed that when I was putting it together. So now I'm going to put the spring in and use the spring compressor to get it in because it makes it a whole lot easier. I also took the bump stop out because then I don't have to clear as much. I'll put that back in once the spring is in. Whenever you're putting springs back on like this, you always want to try and line up the end of the spring with where it was before. And so in this isolator there's the end right there, and you kind of put it in there and then just work the spring around. And it should get on there. I may need to pry it in a little more because this rubber's old and in the wrong place, but I can't do it with one hand, so I just wanted to point that out. Second side in. Went fairly smooth. Forgot to put the bump stop in beforehand, so I had to pound it through the coils, so that was fun. Yeah, just gotta hook everything back up now. Shock, sway bar, put it up, put the wheels back on. Alright, there it is. Rear's all put back together, back on its own weight. Let's see if I can get far enough away to see a little better here. Sorry, my garage is not huge, so there we go. It's hard to tell from the shots, but it is sitting up higher than it was. You can see the extra space above the wheels there in the fender. And same thing in the back. Now I just got to get the bigger tires on. You can tell from looking at it from the back too. It's sitting a little higher than it used to. So the only other thing I got to do still is whenever you put a lift on this, it changes your steering. On the WJ, because of the type of steering setup they have, let me get underneath here. Alright, so it's got the tie rod, which ties the two together, right? Ties both wheels together. And then you got your drag link coming from your fitment arm, your steering box, your fitment arm, to the top of the knuckle on that side. And so with this type of steering, when I put it up in the air, this link right here, the tie rod isn't changing. So I don't need to change my toe in or anything, I don't think. You know, at least that's the way it makes sense to me. All I need to do is my steering wheel is going to be off center, and so I need to adjust my drag link. And there's fittings, you know, pinch fittings, whatever you call them. I'm tired. These things on either end that cramp down on it, and then you can rotate that whole bar. And so I need to do that still. On other setups like an XJ or a ZJ, they have a Y-type where this drag link actually comes into the tie rod and then goes to the wheel. And in that type of setting, that type of setup, when you bring it up in the air, you're actually bringing your steering in a little bit and so your towing is going to be changed, and so you definitely want to get that aligned. This one I think I can get away. I'm just going to recenter the steering wheel myself and see how it does. But anyway, that's it for today.